Okay. Turn off Well, good evening. Welcome to Space Oddities. Thank you for being here. If you're new here, you are most welcome. And if you're a regular subscriber, you're also welcome. Hope you're all okay. And we've got a very special guest tonight. We have Mr. ScottRoberts of Explore Scientific and Starmus Festival and a host of other things that he's going to, we're going to chat to him about. But before we get into all that, let's, as usual, go over to Roger. Roger, what's up?
Right, okay. I'll go through the usual things, but there are a couple of updates and some interesting images from the James Webb Space Telescope. So before we get to that bit, we'll go straight over to what's up in the night sky for this week. Right, here we go. Okay, here we go. Oh, right. So here we are for the 22nd to the 28th of August 2022. And in the forthcoming week, leading up to Saturday, when we get a new moon.
Ooh.
Yes, got rid of the old one and we're getting a new one. So that'll be good. Here's an image that, as we say in Blue Peterland, here's one I took earlier, which was a couple of nights ago. Well, a night ago or so, of the phases that we're currently experiencing.
That's lovely.
I have to say, I love sharing Roger's pictures to the outreach and to my students. They fall in love with them.
Good.
Quite rightly so. Did you get a Blue Peter badge for that one, Roger?
No.
Oh, what a shame.
Unfortunately.
We should do.
Unfortunately, the night sky wasn't too kind to me, but here's a picture of Jupiter with the 4 Jovian moons, which I used with my telescope and an Explorer Scientific ×3 extender by so much so as I would use.
Hurrah!
Not that I'm promoting anybody or product by this chance, as there are other makes available.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm just put this in as it's getting interesting with one of the brightest asteroid that we have currently spotting, called Vesta. Discovered by Heinrich Olbers on March the 29th, 1807. Some information there to go through, but yes. One interesting fact is that it's got a 65,000 feet mountain on it, only surpassed by Olympus Mons on Mars, which is quite interesting. And that lump there is the actual peak.
I wonder how that got there.
Can you define it as a mountain when it's such an irregular shape?
Well, it's a well.
I guess so. Yeah,
I think
average,
yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, it is quite.
I mean, what else would you call it?
No, you're right. It definitely is.
That's if you would like to observe this, it's magnitude 6.1, so it's just on the limits of naked eye visibility in the constellation of Aquarius. And if you're more interested, it's slowly moving in a sort of a southeasterly direction through that constellation. Wow. Right, okay, now on to the weekly updates of the planets, and I've put this now at midnight UK time to show what is now easily more visible than a month or so back, with Saturn, Jupiter and Mars now in the night sky, although Mars will need to be up a few hours after sunrise at nighttime anyway to come through. So Saturn is gradually reducing down into the western skies, with Jupiter gradually getting higher and higher to such an interesting point now for us in the northern hemisphere. And for those in the southern hemisphere, I'm afraid they've got the better imaging, with Saturn and Jupiter way up higher in the atmosphere for all those lovely pictures that we see on social media. And
so that's the only reason that they get better pictures than me, right? It's just because
absolutely.
Of course. What other reason could there possibly be?
Yes, I was finding that the seeing gradually got worse through the night when I was trying to image Jupiter and Saturn, but it doesn't help when you're only about 20 degrees above the horizon seeing these objects, and like in the southern hemisphere where you're about 40-50 degrees up into the altitude and getting great seeing. So unfortunately for us, they've got the better things. So we have got some later images, which is the Great Barred Spiral NGC 161365, which is a double barred spiral galaxy, roughly twice the size of our Milky Way. And here is the image.
Wow.
Amazing. Now, the next slide I'm going to be showing is a comparison with what Hubble and Earth-based telescopes normally view it as. And here we have the Hubble showing various wavelengths images of the same object. And then we've got one which is a normal color image taken in one of the observatories in Chile.
Yeah, you can see you in the on the left-hand side, the inset on the top left corner. You can see all the dust that obscures everything, and of course, Webb has just gone straight through that.
Yeah, I mean, if I go back to the previous one, you can see
that's
all
amazing.
twisting round.
Yeah,
it's almost like it's going down into a sink. The swirls like going into a sink.
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
Absolutely fantastic. And of course, as you said, it's a very odd shape. It's sort of like a Z shape.
Yeah.
You've got the two bars in the middle just coming off the black hole, and then you've got these two long spirals that come off, plus the little spirals that are more towards the center. It's it's an absolutely beautiful
one of the
galaxy itself.
And also, we've
really
got this rather amazing picture of Jupiter. Look at that.
Wow. That is amazing.
That's incredible. You can see
You know
the
what
southern
wavelength this
aurora.
was taken in?
And the northern. See both.
Yes. Now I've got the next slide is has got some of the information on there. So we've got northern and southern aurora on it, and there's even part of the rings here.
Yeah.
I'm fairly sure this is mid-infrared.
Yeah.
This is MIRI.
Yeah.
Yes, this is not the near infrared. This is definitely near infrared.
I mean, it's
the
absolutely glowing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of heat escaping out through that.
Yeah. A lot of
The images we've seen of Jupiter's north and south aurora in the past have been Hubble images in the UV. So it's interesting to see that there's an emission feature in the IR.
Yeah.
And the rings, I mean, the IR typically is the only way to see the rings from far away, but those are so faint.
Yeah, it's very, very thin.
So the mid-infrared really just barely catches them.
And of course, when we're talking about IR, we must say, is that we mean infrared? So just so people who
is there
I did want to
sorry,
go ahead, Andy. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if is there yet an explanation for the rings? Is it a moon that broke up, or because it's dust, isn't it, rather than ice?
Yeah, it appears to be because it's within the Roche limit, where the gravity of Jupiter overwhelms the gravity of any other object.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And look at that red spot.
Yeah.
It's not red there, but the great spot. That's fantastic.
The thing about the aurorae on Jupiter, of course, we're dealing with a planet which is made out of a different gas. So you get different emission lines due to electron excitation in hydrogen in Jupiter than you do with the oxygen and nitrogen in the Earth's atmosphere. So we can see our own aurora in visible light. But obviously UV works best for the Balmer lines that are emitted by hydrogen if it's excited. What's causing the infrared, though, I'm not sure, but it'll be something to do with hydrogen.
Atmospheric heating, perhaps?
Maybe.
From the storms, because you can see all the cloud striations there, so it must be heating in the atmosphere amongst the clouds. Otherwise, you wouldn't see that level of detail.
Yeah,
absolutely
fantastic. I mean, wasn't there something a few years ago about what they said the Jupiter crisis, and it was about the heat that how hot it really is. It shouldn't be that hot. And they discovered that from the Aurora, there were waves of heat heading towards the equators. So it was heating the whole thing up. I'm sure that was Jupiter. I could be wrong. I could be wrong.
There have been some lovely new Juno images recently as well.
Yes.
I'll see if I can dig some up. The latest Juno images are just stunning. I'll put them up on the screen and find them.
But Roger, can I ask you to go back to the
heat balance? Yes.
Yes.
Which one do you want to see?
As we model from Voyager.
Can you go back to the galaxy?
Okay.
I just wanted to point out for the audience, one of the cool things about this James Webb picture is it wasn't developed by the NASA scientists. This was actually done by an astrophotographer as a citizen science project, because the James Webb images are available to anybody through the Minkowski archive. So you can actually access them, and with a bit of, it takes a little bit to learn how to open up the images and which FITS files mean what. But if you can spend a bit of time starting to play with it, apparently, look at the amount of detail you can pull out yourself.
Yeah, the astrophotographer who did this was Judy Schmidt.
Yes.
Well done, Julie.
Yeah, it's absolutely
Oh,
fantastic.
and that bright streak, that bright, almost vertical streak on the right-hand side, is that an artifact of some kind, do you think, or is that actually a feature?
Or a distant galaxy.
That's what
Could
I was
be.
going to say. Might be a distant
be.
galaxy. I was going to ask the same question.
But one of the things that's apparently evident here is you can see the amount of energy rising from that active core.
Yeah.
Because they believe that the spiral, the actual spiral, the arms are actually feeding material into that active black hole at the center there.
Yeah.
So it's very, very lovely. Really
one of the things that came up a few weeks ago when Roger shared one of the James Webb Space Telescope images was a question about color. And it is important to note that James Webb doesn't view in anything but just a tiny bit of the red visible range. The rest is all infrared. So it's not something our eyes can interpret. So the color scale shown doesn't match Hubble and doesn't match the Chilean telescope, because it's chosen with each wavelength that you can detect with the James Webb camera, given a specific color in a visible spectrum. And then it's stacked together that way.
Absolutely.
Okay, I shall stop sharing my screen.
Okay. Thanks for that, Roger. Thank you very much.
Roger. That's
That's okay.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You know what? I look forward to Roger's start to every one of our Space Oddities shows, because it's just great. He does half my work for me for my Tuesday classes. I just have to take what Roger says and just put it in my own words.
Keep it up, Roger. Keep Kareem in a job.
I don't mind.
Okay. Right.
Is it me or the... Sorry, I just wanted to say, is it me or James Webb Space Telescope images just keep on getting better and better week by week, as if they're, fine-tuning their instruments and just coming back with amazing images.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, just 1 month, right? We've had images for 5 weeks.
Yeah. And especially as that was done by an astrophotographer rather than a scientist, I think people are just getting better at interpreting the data. I think that's largely what it is. People are getting practiced at dragging information out of the data. So yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much, as always, for that, Roger, for that tour around the sky, plus the new James Webb images. Nothing from TRAPPIST yet. Anybody seen anything from TRAPPIST? Because I know that the Webb has been observing the TRAPPIST system, but nothing yet. So so that will be something really to look forward to. The spectrographic information of the TRAPPIST planets. That's going to be really, really interesting.
I did see...
I was going to say, just check the rumors on Twitter. That's all we need to do. Just feed on the hive and see what comes
Absolutely. Okay.
I was going to say that I did see in the archive that there was time spent on TRAPPIST for the last week, and so there is an opening for files. But I believe the spectroscopic data isn't given the same way as the infrared camera data. So
right. Okay. Fair enough. Well, it'll be coming soon, I'm sure. So there's always something to look forward to with the James Webb. And you think if they do manage to get 20 years life out of the Webb, what are we going to be seeing over the next 20 years? It's just truly mind-blowing. Plus, of course, all the new telescopes, the Nancy Grace Roman infrared telescope as well. That's going to be really exciting. The European Extremely Large Telescope, the Vera Rubin, there's so many enormous telescopes coming online over the next few years. It's going to be a revolution in astronomy, nothing less. Right, well, we're delighted to welcome on Space Oddities Mr. ScottRoberts. So how are you, Scott?
He's mute.
Yeah. Unmute myself here. I'm fine, guys. So how are you?
Good to see you. I mean, you've seen us before, unfortunately for you.
Yes. No, great. You guys are a great bunch of guys. I love the camaraderie on the show, and I love the humor that you guys have as well. So you keep it light, and you keep it fun, and you keep it very interesting. So
well, thank you very much. It's very kind of you to say so.
True. It's all true.
So anyway, I'm going to put you in the capable hands of Kareem initially, because I gather you two guys know each other.
Yes,
we do.
We're about to meet in real life too. That is going to be a great moment. But,
fantastic.
Yes.
For the first time. For the first time too.
That's right. That's right.
And actually, I want to set the stage with this, because I have to say there was something really amazing that happened back in start of June. I got a phone call from Scott, and Scott tells me, David Eicher has been on the Global Star Parties for all of May, and he was talking about this wonderful Starmus festival, and I looked into it, and it sounded amazing. This festival started by Israelian.
Garrick Israelian.
Garrick Israelian.
Stephen
and Brian May, Stephen Hawking.
Yes.
And he tells me that he's been asked to run a star party at the Temple Garni on the top of the mountains outside of Yerevan. And would I be willing to come to Armenia at the start of the term and do this outreach with him? And my jaw just dropped to the ground. My wife is like, "You're in tears. What's going on? Like, what has caused you to get this emotional on a phone call from Scott?" And so I tell her, and her jaw drops to the ground. She's like, "We have to make this happen." So Scott, can you tell us about this whole amazing adventure we're going on?
Well, I mean, it is going to be a huge adventure. The thing I wanted all amateur astronomers who are listening today, or anyone else that might be interested in becoming, actually really getting involved in the amateur astronomical community, is that once you do, and if you just persist and you just keep raising your hand and saying, "Yes, I will do things," okay, you're going to have mind-blowing, amazing, life-changing experiences. Okay, we all do. We
absolutely.
We see amazing things. We see comets. We see eclipses. We see the things, the miraculous wonders of our cosmos, and it's available to us with our small equipment from our backyards, or even with the naked eye. But in addition to those amazing celestial things that we see and observe, are the people we get to meet. Okay, and there is probably no other field like astronomy where you can interact and meet with top astrophysicists, astronauts, real space explorers, and when I say real, I mean I'm talking about people who do this for a living. Okay, it is accessible. The amateur astronomers who have not had those experiences haven't tried very hard. Okay, because the pros that are out there, the people who have made these have had these kinds of amazing experiences themselves. These explorers, discoverers are eager to share it with people who are like-minded, okay? And so the amateur community is extremely important to the professional community. We are the ones that can spend all the time that we want with our own equipment on every clear night to observe something that they need continuing observations of. And so, while we may not be able to observe or use the biggest telescopes in the world, or space telescopes, for example, we can observe things that they need more information about. And that is just as important as making the discovery. In some cases, more important. So
absolutely.
Here.
Yeah.
So this opportunity to go to Starmus is just another chapter in that kind of that kind of scenario. I was contacted by Garrick Israelian through David Eicher, and they did ask if we could do this star party. And of course, I jumped at the chance to do it. It has been, there's been a lot more effort on our side than I thought it was going to take to make it happen. You guys heard of a little thing called the pandemic, which slowed down production of everything in the world, including telescopes. And so we have made it just under the wire to get our telescopes ready and shipped to Yerevan. So they're actually being air freighted. They should arrive. Maybe they arrive this weekend. I'm double checking on that right now. I was allowed to ask for volunteers that could go. All right. So the volunteers are people that I felt were making an amazing effort towards educational outreach in astronomy. And of course, Karim hit the top of that list for me. And so I started to contact people, and I was actually refused by several people. Not refused, but they just couldn't go, for various reasons. I mean, it is all the way on the other side of the planet. It is happening in a region that if you're not familiar, and I'm not familiar, I've never been to this part of the world, you might feel a little uneasy about, so although there's no dangerous aspect of going to Armenia where the event's going to happen, it's still, some people feel uneasy about going to a country that they've never been to before. Okay. Yeah. So I've traveled around the world, and if you travel with me, and maybe the volunteer group will start to find this out about me, I don't plan a lot ahead for myself personally. I have shown up in countries that I've never been to before without any cash. Okay. Without a hotel reservation, okay, with literally nothing, just going in and just going, okay, I can't read anything, I don't understand anything, but making my way and finding my way around. So for me, that's part of the adventure, right? That makes it adventure right there. But in the astronomy world, this is really cool because Starmus is the brainchild of guys like Garrick Israelian, Stephen Hawking, Brian May, and several others. And they created this event to merge music and the latest findings in astrophysics. Okay, so this is, if there is a Burning Man event of astrophysics and astronomy in the world, this event is it. Okay, and this is their 6th one, and it's the first time that they've made it reasonably accessible to the public. Okay, Starmus was an event that I would class as something maybe for the affluent, okay, people of the world to go to. Ticket prices back then were quite high. They have reduced the ticket price down to about $200 now. And so for $200, you can see a lineup of some of the people that I'll talk about here. So I did want to, I don't know how much time we have, but I wanted to give...
Please carry on. We're not pushed for time.
Okay, so I wanted to give an overview of the actual schedule, okay? I just recently received this myself. So the very first part of Starmus will actually be an astrophotography school run by Michael Bakich, formerly, actually still with Astronomy Magazine. So during that astrophotography program, I was asked to give a talk, and I think I could give a talk about telescopes and maybe the evolution of the current findings in amateur astrophotography, but I thought it'd be a lot more interesting to kind of showcase the people who do it. Okay, so I have asked Jason Genzel, who goes by the moniker of the Vast Reaches, and a couple of others, Doug Struble and Chuck Ayub. Chuck and Doug are there. They just turned in their video to me. I asked them to shoot a video because they both use Explore Scientific telescopes. And they both live about 20 minutes from downtown Detroit, okay? So Detroit is, if you look at light pollution maps, it shows as white hot, okay?
Yeah.
It is very light polluted and has been for a long time. And these guys shoot from their backyards. And so their images of planetary nebula and other types of nebula are nothing short of stunning. And so their talk is going to be about, doing serious astrophotography from highly light polluted regions, which is, I think, going to be an inspiration for a lot of people. You guys all know someone that does astrophotography from the city, but back in, when I started getting involved in amateur astronomy on a serious note, a light polluted city would have made it impossible to get photographs of things like the Veil Nebula or faint galaxies, that type of thing. You were going to be mostly limited to the moon, the planets, maybe some deep sky objects that were bright, but that was about it, okay? Through narrowband filters and image processing techniques and image capturing techniques, which are amazingly short exposure times, with stacking hundreds or thousands of these images, can allow you to really pierce through the light pollution and do some amazing stuff. So I think that
we have a few of the people on the panel, like Steve Orbis, who gives talks on how to do this because he's right outside of an airport, and that whole image processing, there's a few tricks that just, once you see them, you can't believe that you never thought to do that.
Right. So I'm glad to actually get this story from Doug and Chuck, because they're both very popular on the places like Facebook and Instagram and the social media world, but I don't think a lot of people really get that they're doing this 20 minutes from downtown Detroit. So so that's going to be our message there, is that they're really, just because you don't live in an ideal location doesn't mean that you shouldn't go ahead and jump into astrophotography with both feet, okay? Because you can, and it is now technically possible to do. So that the astrophotography school actually happens September 1st. So I'm going to have to arrive early, well before the main event of Starmus. We will, on the day before Starmus, they're actually starting some of the music. So some of the people that are there to conduct presentations and lectures and that type of thing will actually have a kind of a special welcoming type of thing that's going to happen. Monday the 5th of September is the first day of Starmus, and they'll have the official opening. They'll have the ceremony of the Stephen Hawking Medal for Science and Communication ceremony. I don't know who the awardees are this year, or the awardee is this year, but that is a very special moment. And then they're going to have a Sonic Universe concert. Now, this just sounds like an amazing musical event in itself. It will have the Armenian National Philharmonic Orchestra.
Wow.
The Sons of Apollo, who I don't know. Rick Wakeman, who I don't know him, but I know of him.
Good old Rick.
Rock, perhaps rock's greatest living keyboardist, Rick Wakeman. A guy named Serge Tankian and other invited artists will be there, and then we go back to the hotel.
Scott, I don't know if you're aware, but the precursor to this, the Reach Out and Touch Space and Astro Radio, started with a music and astronomy festival in the UK called Solar Sphere.
Okay, I did not know that there was a festival connected with this, but it seems like throughout the history of astronomy that there's been music has played a key role, actually.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Music of the spheres and just the inspiration of the universe and studying the
Herschel siblings, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we've said before, the number of astronomers that I know that are also musicians, they do really seem to go hand in hand.
Right.
Because I've always done a lot of music, and we've got people here who do music. Steve does music. Who else does music here?
I listen to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There you are. You see, so there is a definite link. And I was saying recently, Scott, that there's a definite link between astronomy and alcoholism. Because they both got two O's in the name for a start. That's a giveaway, and they both involve laying on your back looking through cylindrical objects. So you know, there's a definite link there. There's a definite link. So
yes.
So there we are.
I have to confess, I've had a couple of nights where, you know, maybe I drank a little bit too much.
And see, you don't even need clear skies to see stars then. Right?
That's true. That's very true.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you now, just very briefly. I just want to show you that Juno image that I've talked about. I'll just share my screen.
Okay.
Oh, excellent.
This is from near Jupiter's south pole. Shows storm vortices. Look at this. I hope you can see this.
Wow.
Ooh.
That's beautiful. That is.
Do you know which perijove this was?
1 second, and I will tell you.
Because I need a new one for this year for my students to play with. So
okay, just give me 1 second. I've got to stop sharing for a moment. This is.
I'm literally doing all my class prep right now during this call.
This is perijove 43.
43.
Yeah.
I mean, we were supposed to stop at 35, right? Like everything since then has been gravy.
Yeah, definitely.
That first pass with Ganymede was the extended mission starting.
Yes, that's right. I'm just going to put that up one more time. Just have another brief look at it. So just. And
you know, when Scott was mentioning, you know, talking about astrophotography being accessible to everyone now, this is the thing: is the Juno images are processed by anybody and everybody across the world.
Yeah,
wow, that's awesome.
And there we go, right down to the limb.
Look at that.
Yeah. It's truly amazing, isn't it? Yeah, so there we are. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you, just before I forget.
You know, the worst thing is, if I handed that in grade 3 art class, I probably would have gotten a B- for not being original enough. And why do all the storms?
Well, here's all the B9- students out there in the world. Okay, so.
Okay, so does anybody have anything they want to ask Scott?
I think Lou had a great question to just kind of talk about the impetus behind all of this.
Of Starmus itself.
No, just of your work, like the way you go into all this outreach. Lou, did you wanna?
Well, yeah, it really does start with. I think the inspiration of it started when I was starting to retail telescopes at a camera shop. My whole interest in optics really gets started through photography, and so I have a whole history of my photography life, which actually kind of continues to this day. You know, I love to photograph landscapes and people and these kinds of things. Some of my mentors were Ansel Adams and Oliver Galliani and you know, and others that were kind of traditionally, and maybe some of them not so traditionally trained, but black and white photographers primarily. And so I used to shoot with an 8x10 view camera and stuff, and so some of the paths that crossed were me taking my 8x10 view camera to photograph Mount Wilson, and then being invited into the Solar Observatory by a guy named Larry Webster, who has been up on the mountain for a very long time, and I'm still friends with him, still continue dialogue with him, and I sent Kareem. I just sent you the photograph of the book that George Ellery Hale had inscribed in a book about Egyptology. He was fascinated by Egypt and the sun, and so there is a inscription, and he's boarding the USS Cedric to go to I guess to Egypt he was one of the first guys to walk in as they were opening the crypt to King Tut's tomb. Okay, so not only was this guy an amazing astronomer and so many other amazing things, but he did this as well, and so it's very, very cool stuff. The tipping point for me to really get interested in the outreach part was when I'm working at this store. I started putting telescopes out in front of there it is. That's I can see the photograph now. And it shows, it's historical in a number of different ways, because not a lot of people knew that George Ellery Hale was as interested in Egypt and King Tut.
I had no idea.
Yeah. So he was with the leading explorers of the day, doing some of this. So as he enters the tomb, he's writing down where artifacts are, and he's one of the first people to actually see them. So it's pretty interesting stuff.
That might actually be a neat panel topic for a future show. Is what else are we into? Because it's once you're defined as an astronomer or a historian, it's hard to have those other hobbies come to light. But when Scott told me about this on the phone, an hour ago, I was floored. I'd never heard anything about George Ellery Hale outside of designing telescopes and solar astronomy. Yeah. That was pretty much it.
Right. And so if you went to the Hale Solar Lab, as it was called, it actually had above the doorway, it still has, you can still see it today, there are references to the sun god Ra and these other things that are in, at what was his private residence.
Scott, is this the one in Pasadena, California?
Yes, it is. It is. So, have you been inside before?
I have.
Yeah.
I've been down in the dusty sub-basement.
Yeah, it was like when they opened the door for me and I walked in there, it was like walking into, I don't know, a crypt or something itself. They pulled out, the time that I visited, it looked like George Ellery Hale had left, okay, and that this thing had been sealed for a number of years. Of course, that was not the case, but they did not really disturb his things too much. And they pull out some magazines that had like crib notes written by George Ellery Hale on it. They pulled out some glass plates that had George Ellery Hale's signatures on it. Really, his stuff was still there at the time. I don't know if it's still the case now, but that's the way it was then.
Scott, I've got a question for you coming from the chat. It's from Space Barons Productions, and he's asking, what was your very first personal telescope?
It's right behind me.
Well, there you go.
There we are.
There it is. Okay, this is from 1970. It still has the tag on it. Okay, it's a 50 millimeter refractor. It has a push-pull zoom lens. Okay, no diagonal. The finder scope is just a peephole, really, with no adjustment. Okay, for that, and it had a tabletop mount on it, and if you turned it too much, it would loosen up and wiggle back and forth, which it still does. Okay, but my first observations of the moon and stuff are done with that, and I was an Apollo kid. 1970, is the year after the Apollo 11 moon landing, so I begged my parents for a telescope, and so that was the one. I keep it on my desk because a lot of people that are into the hobby of amateur astronomy think that little telescopes like this really are completely worthless and a waste of time and should be thrown away immediately upon getting one, okay, because it's going to ruin your experience in astronomy. I can tell you that me and a lot of my friends that have small telescopes like this, David Levy being another one of them, our interest in astronomy was propelled by this in our younger age. And so I take about it from age 10 to 11, I take about a 9-year hiatus to when I'm now reintroduced to the more serious part of the hobby, okay? But I'm very thankful for this, and So I keep it on my desk as that kind of constant
Yeah,
reminder.
everyone has to start.
Anyway,
somewhere, don't they? Yeah.
Scott, you were saying what your tipping point was with regard to the outreach.
The tipping point was, I know I'm building up to this story. The tipping point is that I started taking large telescopes out in front of the store in Oceanside, California. Now this was called Oceanside Photographic Center is what it was called. It was established in 1947. So it was an old camera shop, and they didn't carry telescopes until the time I started working there. And Pacific Coast Highway, as it's now called there, ran right through Oceanside. And Oceanside at the time in the 1970s and 1980s was a dangerous place to go. In the 1980s, it was recognized as the highest murder rate per capita of any city of its size in the United States.
Oh, lovely.
So, so people were literally afraid. I mean, when they would go to my camera shop, they would park right in front of the store. They would look both ways, jump out of the car, run into the store, and run back into the car and split, because they were that afraid to be out on the street of Oceanside.
Great.
When I started carrying telescopes out there, I would wheel these things out front, and people would slam on the brakes and yell out to me, "Hey, buddy, how powerful is that telescope?" And I'd say, "Well, it's powerful enough to see the rings on Saturn or to see craters on the moon. Why don't you come and look?" And so I started doing moon parties and planet parties right in front of the store, and I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the aspect of many people seeing their first views ever through a telescope, and it was like a light turned on for them. Like, wow, okay, that's real out there, And
yeah, absolutely.
So, but I didn't know much about astronomy at the time, and so I started learning. The first thing I did was made 10 facts about the moon. I started learning about the moon, how far away it was, etc. I love the Apollo missions, so I dug back into my early interest and memories about Apollo and all the rest of it. So that just continued to build until we had an astronomy club, and that club we changed the name of the store from Oceanside Photographic Center to Oceanside Photo and Telescope. It's known today as OPT, but that is the store. And our club grew to over 600 members at that time, which is a large,
That's a lot of people.
Astronomy club, right?
Especially for that area. For that area, it was amazing. Steve has something to ask.
Sure.
Well, I was just going to ask you, Scott, do you have a favorite object or objects that you like looking at, particularly for outreach purposes, that sort of give you or the people the most thrill that you can talk about?
Well, of course, Saturn is probably the, if we were going to pick one object for anybody that's involved in outreach, showing people Saturn for the first time ever blows their minds. They often believe it's not real, that it must be like a trick or a slide, or some sort of projection or something, and that it's not real, because it's an object. Of course, you can easily see the rings, and you can see the rings even through a little telescope like this, So it is something that is astounding. It looks science fiction looking when you see this planet with rings around it, and it's so bright and easy to find. So I would say that is a favorite object for me to use. Jupiter, Saturn, the moon, the common outreach objects that are out there. But my own personal interest is galaxies, and the faintest, almost imperceptibly faint galaxies are the ones that I'm most interested in, because I know I'm looking as far back into time as I can with my telescope.
You must be feeling in heaven with the James Webb at the moment, then.
Absolutely. That first shot that came through with all those galaxies, it just, it's mind blowing for me.
It seems to have created some controversy already, which I don't think anybody expected the James Webb to start causing controversies so early on in its career, if you want to put it like that.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so I think it's turning on a lot of people to, astrophysics and astronomy now. And we will see some great astronomers born out of their first exposure to these images from J-Webb.
Yeah, Michael, go ahead. Michael?
Yeah, Scott, just wanted to say that I had a very similar telescope to your small refractor, and saw my first views of things like Saturn again back in the early 70s. So that was my first views of anything like that.
Right.
I wondered if you would talk about the Dobsonian in the background that you got there.
Okay. All right. Well, I keep
that's your carry-on, isn't it? That's your carry-on for Armenia? Just in case?
It's actually, it folds flat. It's not even three-dimensional. It's just a flat thing. But no, it's a 10-inch. This is just a 10-inch model that we have. In the Dobsonian range of telescopes, Explore Scientific makes, out of our own brand, telescopes that range from 10 inches up to 20 inches.
Wow.
We also sell for Fulham Optique Dobsonians that range from 30 inches to 72.
Wow.
Oh, if you guys need a big telescope, I know where I can get one for you. So,
and that's with the mirrors from Normal Fulham from here in Montreal.
That's right. So you have one of the great, in fact, if I was going to give out awards for the best telescope maker in the world, I would have to include Norman Fulham in that category. This guy is self-taught, makes some of the largest, if not the largest, telescopes that can be personally owned. Okay, so, and it's all technology, all the way from making the primary mirror, out of pieces of Boros, Pyrex glass, and to the structures, everything about them.
And I have to ask for the audience: is he bringing his guitar to Armenia?
That I don't know. I have to ask.
We'll have to ask Normal. Yeah, because Normal is coming to Armenia.
He is included in this. So Norman Fulham's coming, which is I love that. I've met Norman before. At a couple of star parties. Norman often reminds me of nights that we spent looking through one of his big Dobsonian telescopes, but nothing quite as big as what he's building now, so it would take my breath away to look through one of his 50-inch or 55-inch telescopes at things like the Orion Nebula. You can imagine what that would be like from a dark sky site visually. I've used big telescopes, but these big telescopes are now, one of them is a 60-inch at Mount Wilson, which I've used on several occasions. I've used the 100-inch there. I've used the 108-inch telescope at Fort Davis, Texas. I've used the 200-inch at Palomar, But a 50-inch telescope in truly super dark skies, wow. I think that would blow them all away, actually.
Yeah. We have a question.
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, you come on, Andy.
Howard Locke in the chat is asking, Scott, can you tell us something about your relationship with John Dobson?
Well, I didn't have a deep relationship with John Dobson. My first connection to John Dobson was that he wrote me a letter when I was working at Meade Instruments, and John Dobson did not like the idea of telescopes being named, like a type of telescope being named after him, the Dobson. I think it kind of grew on him after a while, after decades of him, people recognizing this is the Dobsonian telescope and stuff, but he didn't like it. And at the time that he wrote me this letter, he also did not like it, nor did he like the way that Meade Instruments had developed a Dobsonian telescope. So, although he'd sold many of these types of telescopes and there were very many happy customers with them, but he had certain ideas about how a Dobsonian should be made. The relationship of the bearings and the sizes of things were very critical to him, and he was very vocal about these things. Later, I met John Dobson for the first time, person to person, when I was at the movie premiere in Hollywood for a movie called Deep Impact. Okay. Yeah. And this is a movie, that had star Morgan Freeman, and it had to do with an asteroid hitting Earth. Okay. And what that destruction would be like, and had a romantic storyline and all the rest of it. But during that time, I'd always heard up until that time that John Dobson had some quirky, strange ideas about cosmology and how the whole universe worked. And so I'm up there with him. We're watching the party. They had a pre-party type of thing before the movie was shown and everything. And I have this conversation with John Dobson, and it was the most grounded, sound, up-to-date conversation about cosmology. And so I was going, what is everybody talking about? This guy's so crazy, Now I know other people have other stories about him like this, but I thought he was great. He was cool to be with. He kind of sought me out at the time, and I was just, I was just a customer service representative working at Mead Instruments. But I think he wanted to talk to another amateur astronomer. So this amateur astronomer to amateur astronomer, professional astronomer to amateur astronomer connection happens all the time. Okay. And so if you are someone that's actually interested and open and, you're going to meet, like I said, you're going to meet some very, very interesting people. So
absolutely. Well, in fact, Scott, we had a chat here on Space Oddities not so long ago about the value of going to star parties and yes. what you can get out of it. And especially this time of year, of course, this is the time to do it. And if you're in the UK, if you just Google Star Parties UK, there's a directory there, and there's bound to be one not too far from where you are. And all of us would highly recommend that, not just for the astronomy, but you go along and you will meet some amazing people and you will make some great friendships. So
lifelong friendships.
Lifelong friendships. Absolutely.
That's right.
Anyway,
Daz has something.
I just want to say, Harold, thank you very much for your question about John Dobson. Daz, over to you.
You took the question, so that's fine.
Oh, okay, fine.
Right, now it's time to embarrass Scott.
Oh, great.
Now, what we're going to do is your recognition for all what you've done in the past for outreach and all that. And you actually have a asteroid name after you, I do believe.
Oh, you remember that club?
It's Asteroid 15779.
I don't normally wear that on my sleeve, but
you should have a patch. You should have a patch.
Oh yeah. Well, for anyone to have an asteroid, someone to convey that honor upon someone or a place, I think it's very special. When you think about it, it's not like going and having a star named after you or something, like in a star registry. This is something that has to go through the International Astronomical Union. It gets put in a permanent record. So it's, and when you read about the other people who've had asteroids named after them, you just go, how am I even on this list? Okay. Why would I actually land on this list, of these amazing, luminaries of astronomy and, the physics or whatever, these are so, but yeah, it is a deep honor.
Yeah. I mean, you were nominated by Caroline Schumacher and David Levy themselves, and just to rub it in a little bit, it said named in honor of ScottRoberts, born in the Paleolithic time or something, who for many years has encouraged amateur astronomers to pursue their love of the night sky, spending much time teaching people to use and enjoy their telescopes. I think that's a fantastic.
Yeah, it was very lovely.
Yeah. Well done, Scott.
Thank you. When that award, it's not really an award, but it is a special recognition. Carolyn Shoemaker and David Levy made a conference call to me when I was out when I was selling telescopes. I was on a business trip at the time, and I landed in this hotel, and David said, "Scott, are you settled in? Is everything okay?" "Yeah, I'm in my hotel room." And he said, "Are you sitting down?" And I go, "Yeah." And I think that, oh, guy's going to tell me some bad news or something, And he said, "Carolyn," and so Carolyn Shoemaker speaks up, and they together read that inscription that you just read out to me. And I didn't know whether to cry or to, it was just, I was locked up. I did not know what to say, David Levy was a friend, and I had met Carolyn Shoemaker, but, meeting Carolyn Shoemaker to me, or even David, it was like meeting, if you're a diver and you meet Jacques Cousteau or something, or, Neil Armstrong, or, let's pick it, if you're interested in math and you get to meet Einstein or something, to me, it was like that. And so, it was very kind of both of them to give me that kind of recognition.
Yeah, it was very nice. Very nice. Just one more thing. Corinne was talking about other interests and all that. Now, do you want to mention a little bit about your love of Airstream trailers?
Oh, okay. Well, I do love Airstream trailers, and I always have. Ever since I saw one when I was a little boy, I thought, wow, that's got to be one of the coolest things in the world. And I have long admired the Airstream company and its founder, Wally Byam. And so I eventually, I reached a time in my life where I just go, "Look, Scott, you got to buy one or just forget about thinking about them," because, so I bought a used one out of California. It was a 1968 model. The year 1968 is a special year for me because I would say that was probably the year that I really became intensely interested in the Apollo missions. And it was the year that I met one of my childhood best friends. And so
I've just put a picture of an Airstream up.
So there's an Airstream right there, right?
You might not know what it is. That's an Airstream trailer.
That's an Airstream trailer. So they're kind of iconic, design. They were designed by that kind of aluminum design. I mean, I could make a whole show out of this, okay? But
I'm still adamant you have to deck yours out as the James Webb Space Telescope next time you go anywhere.
Yeah, put it on the roof.
Big solar panels or something on it. So.
Brilliant.
But the Airstream company did use me as an ambassador at one point. I went to the USS Hornet with my Airstream, with the Airstream company, and we celebrated the 50th anniversary of the splashdown of Apollo 11. They were recovered on the USS Hornet. And a really fun moment there was the original SEAL team that recovered the astronauts they were all still alive, including the guy that was the team leader, who was quite old at the time. Hopefully he's still around with us, but they all went down and saw my Airstream and stuff. And of course, they all referred to the other Airstream that was inside the USS Hornet that received the astronauts, because they thought they had like some sort of moon viruses or something. So
yours has got a name, hasn't it?
What's that? Mine?
Yours has got a name, yes.
Yes, of course. It is named Barbara Jean, the Vintage Airstream. And Barbara Jean is my mother's name, so it's homage to my mother. And so,
that's sweet.
Yeah,
very
it
nice.
was also very supportive. Thank God to all the supportive parents out there that, enjoyed watching their kids get interested in various things and supported that, So my parents supported almost anything I was interested in. And so that I'm very, they weren't wealthy. They didn't have the money, to really let me go in deep. But I certainly, my interest in optics, photography, telescopes, that kind of thing, they did support very deeply for me. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Right. Well, listen, Scott, it's been lovely having you on the show. I hope that you will come back and see us again. You can drop in anytime. You've got the link now. So just, if you've got absolutely nothing better to do on a Monday night, we're always here. So please do feel free to drop in anytime. You're more than welcome to always take part. So round of applause for Scott. Thank you so much for coming, Scott. And the very best of luck with your Starmus. Very jealous.
Yeah, and for everyone in Europe, join us. Come out there.
I'd love to.
So maybe when Kareem and I get back from Starmus, we can do this again and give a
yes, that'd be fantastic.
Okay. Get some videos and do a report for us. That'd be fantastic.
Absolutely, we will.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. Yeah. Right, just a few things before we leave you tonight. On Friday, I'm off to speak at Astronomy Ireland's annual Starbecue. I'm flying on Friday. Looking forward to that greatly, and hopefully I can get actually to go to Newgrange this time and go inside, because when I went last time, you couldn't go inside because it was COVID. So looking forward to that. So I'll be doing a report on that, hopefully next week. But we've got a few things lined up. Next Monday is the launch of Artemis One, NASA's return to the moon after 50 years. The Artemis One mission is uncrewed. It will fly to the moon. The Orion spacecraft will do, how many orbits of the moon was it? 100 and something?
We're not 100% sure anymore.
No. We're not 100% sure anymore.
It's over a month. It's over a month.
Yeah, the mission will last over a month, and the mission really is to test the spacecraft. But that enormous, massive rocket, the SLS, the Space Launch System, having its maiden flight, that kicks off, if kicks off is the right word, that lifts off, due to lift off next Monday. What time is it, Dad? I keep
about 1:30 UK.
Yeah, 13:29 UK.
Yeah,
13:29 UK time, right? So it's an hour later here. We are hoping to cover it in some way. We've yet to make a decision because we're not still quite unsure of how to do it technically, so that we can relay you video without it being jerky and breaking up all the time. So that may happen. Keep your eye on the channel and turn on the notification icon so that you do get notified of anything upcoming, and subscribe, of course. And if you could find it in your hearts to give us a like as well, that would be much appreciated. And so that's that. Michael, you were saying that Go Space Watch might be doing something for it as well?
Yeah, we've got a live watch party planned for that Monday, starting at 1 p.m. UK time.
Right.
So that's going to happen on Monday. The sign up for the Zoom details are on the Eventbrite if you want to have a look for that on the Go Space Watch. So there's a few places left to sign up for that.
Okay.
And I hope to see somebody there. And
they can do so via your Facebook page as well, presumably.
Good point. Should be able to. I will check that.
Yeah. So Go Space Watch on all one word on Facebook. I'm sure Michael will provide some way of signing up for the event. We at Space Oddities, as I said, we don't know if we're going to be doing anything yet. We hope to. We've got to get a few technical things sorted out. So keep your eye on the channel and do ring that notification bell to make sure that you're kept up to date.
And we will be still on Monday. Yeah.
Sorry?
We'll be on Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll be back on Monday, of course, where we will be talking about the launch if it happens. Hopefully it will. And so we'll be covering Monday night anyway. We'll talk about it if you do miss it live. Now, just before we go, sorry, no viewers gallery this week. Rachel's on holiday, so we're going to hold your images over to next week. Also, before we go, we seem to have accumulated quite a bit of news over the last few weeks that we haven't brought you. So we're just going to do a quick round the panel with any news, and just fairly briefly, I'll kick us off. 66 million years ago, an asteroid crashed into the Earth, into what is now the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, as we know, and that precipitated the road to extinction of the dinosaurs. And now there's news that scientists have found another meteor crater 5 miles across on the coast of Guinea in West Africa, so the other side of the Atlantic. And this dates from 66 million years ago. So it's possible that this could have hit the Earth at the same time. It's possible that the dinosaur-killing object split into two as it entered the atmosphere. Nobody knows. unfortunately, the margin of error with the dating of the new crater is about 1 million years. So, it's possible that it may date from the same event, and equally it may not. But the scientists concerned have asked for emergency funding to go and do some drilling into the crater to get a more accurate measure of its age and structure. So it's quite interesting that the Earth may have been hit by more than one object, which led to the downfall of the dinosaurs. That's mine. Daz, over to you.
I've just got 3 quick ones for now. There have been 13 proposed sites of the south pole of the moon, which are going to be proposed landing sites for Artemis 3. Of course, we've got Artemis 1 going off on Monday, hopefully. Artemis 2 will be a manned mission around the moon, but Artemis 3 is the first landing. And of course, SpaceX Starship should be doing the landing for that. As I said, there are 13 proposed sites. If you wish to see them, go to the NASA website and just tap in Artemis 3 landing sites, and you'll be able to read about it. Plus, we'll talk about it next week. Also, the Phosphine on Venus saga has raised its head again. There have been several more detections in the atmosphere of Venus by several telescopes, land-based telescopes. So hopefully we will know something within a year or two, because of course we've got 3 probes that I know of going, which is Veritas, which is NASA, Da Vinci, which is also NASA, and also Envision, which is ESA. So hopefully they'll be able to resolve that for us. Right. And the last and final one is Asteroid Ragu. Of course, this was visited by the Japanese probe Hayabusa 2 and brought back a sample. It's been analyzed, and it's been found to have dust that is older than the solar system itself.
Wow.
And there is a report. Just look up on the internet and you'll be able to read the reports. So that'll do for now. Thank you. Right.
Okay. Anybody else got any news briefly?
Just a quick one from me, Andy. Just an update on the Artemis One watch party details. If anyone's interested, if they want to go to the website at gospacewatch.earth, just scroll down the main page, and there's a link to register on the bottom of that particular page for that party next week.
Thank you very much, Michael. That's great. Anybody else got anything to finish with? Yes, Lou.
Yeah, just 2 quick anniversaries. The 45th anniversary of the launch of Voyager 1, I think, launched after Voyager 2 in August of 1977.
Happy birthday, Voyager.
And with hopes that these 2 spacecraft still operating will be able to stay operating until their 50th anniversary. Wow. In 5 years. So we're hoping for that. And then at least for us in the US, this is the 5th anniversary of what we call the Great 2017 Eclipse across America.
Yes, indeed.
So many of us remember where we were.
I was there.
He was there.
Yeah.
I think
year and a half till the next one.
Yeah,
yes.
I think Scott's got something to say.
That's right. I have one too, but this goes way back. Tomorrow is the birthday, August 23rd, 1847, for Sarah Frances Whiting. This is the female, she was an astrophysicist and taught astronomy and astrophysics. Well, it wasn't astrophysics at the time, but physics to people like Annie Jump Cannon. Okay, so she is seems large with people like Edward Pickering and Wellesley College and MIT, and so we owe her a debt of gratitude for introducing some of the most amazing women astronomers of our time. So
the Harvard computers,
the Harvard computers, yeah. Great, thank you for that, Scott. Bernard, have you got anything? You've been rather quiet there, Bernard.
Yeah, well, no. Well, I have the International Space Station behind me, and I just wanted to say that in 2024, a tiny robot is actually going to go on the space station to perform simulated surgical procedures. Hopefully, being able to to start operating on, astronauts that are potentially going to go to the moon and to Mars as well. So yeah, I think that's really exciting. I'm really looking forward to how that's going to be happening.
Although I wouldn't volunteer to be the subject, not for the first one. So yes, but yes, I did read that actually. So because of course that's going to be a problem for long-term space.
It is. No, totally. Yeah, so it's great that they're starting to work on this. A little bit late, I think, but still.
Yeah, absolutely. Keith, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I picked this up entirely by accident, but I happened to pick up on the BBC's talk radio, Radio 4, the sound of a black hole.
Oh, yes.
And basically what the explanation is, if you've got a galaxy with enough gas in it, then in fact you can transmit sound through space. And anyway, they played this sound, and it's this deep roaring noise. It really was what you'd expect a black hole to sound like, actually. So if you pick that up somewhere, folks, have a listen. Yeah.
I always picture black holes as being incredibly angry for some reason.
Well, it did sound that way.
Yeah.
Very much. One more thing, just wearing my geologist hat for a moment, blaming extinctions on asteroid meteorite impacts is a common trope with astronomers, but geologists will tell you there are far more reasons for extinction events. In fact, not long after the dinosaurs disappeared, there was a thing called the Paleocene-Eocene thermal maximum, in which a massive extinction took place, and that was caused by rising levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
There you are, you see, which is why I said that the event 66 billion years ago in the Yucatan precipitated the extinction of the dinosaurs, because I think the jury is still out as to whether it was the major cause of the extinction of the dinosaurs.
There were several things happening at once. Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah,
because you had the Deccan traps. You had all sorts of things, lots of volcanic activity and prolonged volcanic activity over hundreds of years. So there we go. Yes, Michael.
Yeah, just wanted to say that on Saturday, the 3rd of September, there's going to be an astronomy day at Whittington Castle in Shropshire, and our own Steve Warbeat, I believe, is going to give a talk on that.
Yeah, I'll be there as well.
Yeah,
I'm hoping
to be there as well.
Oh, good. Thanks, Michael.
And just to finish, can I just say just a quick update on what SpaceX are up to? They've been static firing their Falcon Super Heavy booster and Ship 24 S24, the combination of which will make the first suborbital launch attempt. The timetable for that is still uncertain, maybe before the end of September. I'll be very surprised if it happens before then, but it's going to happen, and we're going to see that most powerful, tallest rocket ever built climb its way into the atmosphere, hopefully. So there's that. Okay, Scott and Kareem, we shall look forward to your report from Starmus, and take care of yourselves. Have safe travels. And I'm so glad that you two are meeting up finally. I think it's always great when we see people that have met virtually and never in person. So that's always a great occasion. And Scott, Kareem tells me he's going to buy you beers for the whole festival. Awesome. So you should think yourself lucky, because he doesn't do that.
Coffee, yes. Yes, tea, yes.
There'll be mutual beer buying.
Anyway, have a great time.
Have a great time.
We look forward to your report. And to you viewers, thank you so much. We'll be back next week, mainly talking about, if it happens, Artemis. We'll probably talk about it even if it doesn't happen, but we will be talking about the Artemis trip to the moon. It's an historic day. NASA returning to the moon after 50 years next Monday, and keep your eye on the channel. So there we are. Thank you so much for watching. Yeah. It's been great fun,
everyone.
Thanks again to Scott for
being
a perfect guest.
Thank you very much.
And we will see you next Monday. And thanks for being here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That's a wrap.
Hey.